Welcome to the Princess Power Hour, where we show you how to go from pauper to powerful by transforming your health, your wealth, and your relationships. Here's the princess of podcasting herself, Natalie Thomas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to be talking about influence and how to work with influencers. I've got Josh Elledge with us, and we're going to introduce him in just a minute. But first, as always, I'm going to tell you about my lip color of the day. This is Sheer Berry Diamond, and it is so cool because it is, Josh, you've got to check this out over here. Josh, look at this. I have kiss-proof lipstick that is smudge-proof. Is that the coolest thing ever? Have you ever seen lipstick that can do that? So everybody, you can grab a color over at www.lipstickkissesandlove.com. While you're there, pick a gloss because you need 3 very light coats of lipstick, and then you put the gloss in, and it's the gloss that seals it in for 4 to 18 hours. We've got about 50 colors over there and a dozen glosses, and it is the coolest thing ever because it is lead-free, wax-free, GMO-free, and not tested on animals. So Josh is going to be talking to us about influence, and we are very privileged to have him on the show today. Josh put about $500 of advertising into his business and grew it to $6 million a year in sales. He's been on TV and radio more than 2,000 times in 100 different cities. He's owned a newspaper. He writes a syndicated column to 1.1 million readers, and he's created more than $8 million of free advertising for his company. He's taught tens of thousands of entrepreneurs how to do the same thing. So stick with us today, and you are going to learn a few tips on how to grow your business through influence. So thank you, Josh, for joining us today.
You bet, Natalie.
So
You're right. The lip shade looks fantastic.
Thank you. I love it. There are several colors that are just my favorites. I can't narrow it down to one favorite, but this is absolutely one. And I like to say that diamonds are a girl's best friend. It's got a little sparkle in there. It really has diamond dust in it, which is amazing to me. But I would have settled for glitter. But hey, why stop there? So tell us about how you got started. Now, you have 2 businesses. And Savings Angels, tell us how that got started. And you built that up. And
yeah, so this was over 11 years ago, and I was in a position where I had been doing some online marketing with another company, and that position was drying up, and so was my income. And I had started my own companies previously, and none of them really panned out that well for me. And so this idea I had for Savings Angel would actually be my 7th business venture. And, if you failed in business, you know that it's kind of an awful feeling, particularly if you're responsible for providing for your family, which in my case I was. And, to go through business startup, I was just very nervous. One thing I did learn from my previous business ventures is that exposure is everything. You can have the best business idea in the world, and if nobody knows about you, then it doesn't matter because you're not going to get any customers. And if you don't have any customers, you don't have any income. You don't have any income, you're probably not going to be in business for very long. And so the problem is generally with exposure, it costs money in terms of advertising, and money was one thing that I just really didn't have much of. But I felt like I had a great idea, and so I took Savings Angel and I just started approaching all my local media, and I tried to see if I could. I could get anyone to talk about it. If I could talk about it, if I could serve audiences in some way, I could bring value. And thankfully, a small town radio station kind of had mercy on me, and they allowed me to do a segment. And it actually worked out okay. And by the time I got home and checked my stats, I had earned over $300, and this is a monthly recurring membership. So I'd actually earned about $1,200 for doing a 2.5, 3-minute radio segment. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to keep doing that. That's amazing. And, that money right there that paid for my heating bill. I mean, just to let you know, like how desperate I was at the time. I mean, that saved my bacon. And so I really just started doing everything I could to make friends with local media, local influencers, to try and get, build relationships with them where I could not necessarily, sell Savings Angel, but I could bring value to those audiences in a way that they might appreciate the value that I bring them on a regular basis. And so from that radio, I started doing other radio stations, started doing syndicated radio on a regular basis. I started writing a newspaper column, which then eventually turned into a syndicated newspaper column that I've been writing for about 9 years now.
Wow.
I started doing TV, which that turned into syndicated TV. And I do TV in 75 markets on a regular basis, all told. And then here I live in Orlando, Florida now with my family, and I've been on TV more than 600 times. So when you add it all up, I've actually been in the media over 2,000 times. As a result, as you mentioned, we've been able to generate well over $6 million of revenue for Savings Angel. And, the exciting thing is, over the past 11 years, we just don't really advertise. We just don't really need to. Advertising, I think I forget who it was that said this, but advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable. and so, yeah, I know, which kind of stings a little bit. But, our approach has always been to just bring a lot of value to audiences, and then just really focus on building up know, like, and trust with people so that we can, make the world better and have a big impact in the world. And as a result, people then come and want to find out how we can make it even better.
Wow, that is amazing. So you started out with Savings Angel, but the work that you did to get there and build it, you've spun that off into a completely different business, helping people do the same thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, and really quite unintentionally, just simply because I feel like, and this is to all, business owners that have also achieved some success out there. I feel like we all have an obligation to serve other up and coming business owners. I just feel like, any chance you have to serve pro bono in your local startup community, give value, bring value, provide free resources. I think we ought to all do that. A percentage of our time should be focused on giving back. And that's what I was doing, is I was just kind of serving local startups in our local community here in Orlando. And so I was basically teaching them, no, don't hire PR. Look, here's all you have to do. Just focus on building your authority. Then you can kind of come and you can kind of go in anywhere you want if people respect you enough. And so I was teaching them exactly how to do that. And so a couple of those businesses started getting some funding, and some of them introduced me to other people. And all of a sudden I had all these business owners that were saying, can we hire you? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of already the CEO of a company, but I'm open to it. And thankfully I was, because that really has become a thing. We've since developed kind of a service / agency at Up My Influence, where we've been able to work with thousands of business owners now over the past 4.5 years, become media celebrities, increasing their authority, increasing their influence, and ultimately helping them, again, create a huge impact in the world. I just firmly believe that everybody has a message that can positively impact the world. And,
yes,
I feel like it's my duty to help them gain their voice and grow their voice and get on stages and partner and network with other very influential partners.
I love that. That is so important. So, wow. You are paralleling in my mind, just so you know, I'll tell you a little bit of background. One of the things that was life-changing for me, and is actually why I am sitting in this seat today, is I told you before the show that I parented 19 kids. And back in the day, I had it was a $90 a week food budget. And, couldn't buy sodas, couldn't buy chips for my kids. Now, I now know that stuff's not healthy and I wouldn't give it to them now, but it's a different life back from when I thought I was depriving my children, and, we're just barely scraping by on, one income. My husband was a security guard. And a woman came into my life because of a Craigslist ad, and her business doesn't exist anymore, but she does what you do through Savings Angel. And it changed my life because I could save 67% on my groceries.
Yeah.
I got my grocery bill down to $45 a week, was buying twice as much food on, roughly half as much money. And then I was able to take that other money and do things with my life. Now, at that time, I was a stay-at-home mom for 22 years, and I never thought I would become a multi-million-dollar businesswoman, doing business internationally in, multiple countries. And to see the change that having that little bit of money brought into my life was amazing. But I reached out to that same gal years later. She and I touched base many years because I had so much gratitude in my heart for what she had done because it helped me so much. And she was paying $18,000 a month at one point for PR. Now, I am willing to bet you that what your fees are and what you teach people to do is nowhere near $18,000 a month, right?
Yeah, no, we're actually about 1/4 to 1/5 of what traditional PR firms charge, just simply because one of our core values is democratization, where we believe in empowering everybody with the ability to rise, which is why we do so much pro bono stuff. And then when we actually do engage with other traditional business owners, we just try to make it focused on where we can over deliver on value so much that they fall in love with us. Traditional PR, we could talk about that for quite a while. It is a messed up system right now. A lot of your old school traditional PR firms are just built on a different model, and it's extracting as many billable hours from a client as possible. And it's about, finding clients with deeper and deeper pockets and kind of just trying to move away from the earlier growth stage startups. Our average client pays us well under $3,000 a month, but before we even get to that part, we just over deliver on value to the point where they're like, oh my gosh, they love what we've provided them so much. They're like, I got to give these guys money. It's fantastic. So that's kind of our mission is to be able to serve that audience that's been misserved. We're doing so well with Savings Angel with our PR. We thought, what would happen if we actually hired a professional? And so I invested $25,000 into PR, and out of that experience, I got one good introduction to a reporter, and that was great. And then I got to speak in a lawn and garden show, and that was my $25,000.
Wow!
And the more I started talking with other business owners, the more I realized that that's actually a very, very common occurrence. PR is fantastic for enterprise level clients. I think it's, where they're investing big money and, very talented PR professionals are meeting the objectives for, a new PR campaign for Zantac or something like that, or, Kleenex or some big brand. I think that works out great. But for the SMBs out there, it's pretty risky. I feel like most of the clients that we work with some Inc. 500 companies. But the majority of our clients, they want to know, what can I get for under $4,000 a month? And the reality is not a lot. I mean, there are some agencies out there, but really it's not enough for most PR agencies to get the momentum that a client really needs to get to really maximize their PR dollars.
I had a gal that I was paying $3,000 a month. I honestly now believe she was a sociopath. She was a pathological liar like you would not believe.
I'm sorry.
But at the end of the day, she did not even get me a blog post. And, that certainly wasn't acceptable. And the gal that I'm telling you about, that she had given up her $18,000 a month PR, she started doing her own. She was transitioning, looking at selling her business and doing something else. She started doing my PR. And within the first week, got me in my dream magazine. And, it's when you're taking intelligent action, which is what I believe you're teaching people to do, then you can see different results. I know that her big expensive PR firm talked her into doing a $20,000 photo shoot. Isn't that ridiculous?
Oh my goodness.
She's got one really good picture out of
Yeah.
it. She used it on a cover on a book. But come on, I've done, oh gosh, I would say half a dozen photo shoots for less than $500 each that I got a bunch of good pictures out of.
That's incredible.
Tell us about working with influencers. If somebody's looking to get started and they want to grow their audience, what are some steps that you would suggest that they take?
Right. So, the easiest way to do business, like if you want to do influencer marketing, which is a big thing, and it absolutely works. And influencers absolutely have the power to wave their magic wand and bring you a ton of sales. It works. It does. The best way to do influencer marketing, in my opinion, is to become an influencer yourself. We all do this. I want to talk a bit about authority and why this is so critical. So I'll give you a great illustration. So let's say you get an email from somebody and you've never connected with them previously. They're just kind of emailing you out of the blue. You are going to sort that email into one of four categories. And what I want you to think of is we all do this, and everybody is doing this to us as well. And it's based on their own internal test of sorting you where you belong. Now, again, if you're working with the media, what I'm about to illustrate, imagine it intensified by orders of magnitude because of how many cold emails they get or cold pitches or whatever it is on a regular basis. So they're even much more so. But generally you get someone reaches out to you and they're like, hey, like to see maybe if there's some way we could work together. And you're like, then what you see the offer, then our wheels start going like, okay, I'm going to either say yes and respond to this person. I'm going to say no. Okay. Based on some tests here that I'm going to run through. And ultimately, you're going to put that email into one of four categories. A, I'm going to absolutely respond to this person right away because they are obviously very important. And I just looked them up and I'm like, wow, I'm actually really impressed that they're reaching out to me. I'm pretty humbled. And so you respond to that person right away. B, oh, this looks really, really good. This is an important person. This definitely, I have something to gain from this outreach here, but I'm busy right now. And so I'll do it later. And then you do. Or it could be a C where it's, oh, I can't respond right now, but this is a pretty good offer, so I'm going to respond later. And then it just kind of falls off, falls off the table. You kind of forget about it. And that can happen quite a bit. And then there's D, no thanks, don't have time, delete. This person is pretty much just a spammer. All right. So how do you figure out where somebody goes, A, B, C, or D? How do you do that? Where did you develop the skills to sort people so efficiently? Well, so we've really analyzed human behavior on this because obviously we want our clients to always be A's or B's. And so it comes down to how much respect you gain and how much authority or perceived authority you communicate. Because if you communicate very high authority, well, everybody's going to respond to you. Okay? If Gary Vaynerchuk or Tony Robbins or, name your favorite politician. I'm not going to name any, but, just someone who has great importance or great respect contacts you, you're going to immediately jump on that and say, yes, absolutely. What can I do for you? So the higher in authority they are, the faster we jump. So how do we communicate that authority? So here's what people do. They look at the content of the email. If the email is otherwise well-written, then you pass the first test. Okay, the next test is going to be what's in your signature. And if you don't have a signature, that communicates something. If you do have a signature, well, then people are going to start judging you based on what you decide to put in your signature. So everything should be very deliberate. Okay. None of this stuff should just be, you just haphazardly think, just put this, blah, 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 blah. You really should think about and test everything. So ideally, you would put some indicators of why you're an important person. So if you get an email from me, it's going to say syndicated newspaper columnist and syndicated TV consumer expert and founder CEO of whatever. And then I've got a very professional headshot and media logos, okay? Because those things are going to communicate that authority. And then I also, because I served in the U.S. military, I find that sometimes if you have some sort of special affiliation, sometimes, that's a pretty good thing. And you should communicate some of those affiliations. If you're a woman-owned business and you're proud of that, own that. If you're a minority-owned business, absolutely. And you've got some kind of, you've gotten some recognition for that, for the some success that you've done in whatever community it may be, absolutely make that a part of that. Because, psychologically, when we see that, we think, oh, well, this is somebody, again, who's pretty special. And so we shouldn't disregard this response right away. So that's the first test. Then is obviously in the signature, before I hit delete, respond, or whatever with this email or this pitch that I get. And by the way, what I'm communicating here, okay, these laws, what I'm sharing with you right now, these are universal. If you're reaching out to social media influencer and you're using a direct message, it's the same stuff. If you're reaching out to a reporter and you're using email, same stuff. Okay, it doesn't really matter. You are going to be judged harshly based on what you communicate. So, where are you going to be judged? Well, after we get past the email, then people are going to start clicking on things to figure you out really quick. I will actually spend, 3 to 5 minutes trying to figure someone out, as opposed to hitting reply, and that would only take me like maybe 30 seconds, because I can't open up doors that I know I can't fulfill, because we're all busy. Look, I'm busy. Natalie, I know you're extremely busy with your success and the size of your company. And so you have to be very, very protective of your time. We're all protective of our time. And we all pride ourselves on our ability to read people very quickly. And then all we're doing at that point is that we're just looking for evidence to support what we figured out in that first 5 seconds. That's all we're doing. So then if I click through, you're going to be judged on 3 things. You're going to be judged on your website. You're going to be judged on, maybe I do a Google search, maybe someone's going to do a Google search on you. So what Google has to say about you. So, so be aware of that. And then your social media communicates a lot. So your website, very simply, if it looks professional, guess what? You're going to get a green check mark, and that influencer is going to be like, okay, you passed the first test. And if you get, a red X on any of this stuff, on this test that I'm sharing, it's not necessarily going to rule you out, but it's not going to help you.
But you don't want to send somebody to a website that shows under construction.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. And I've seen some other terrible things. We're going to take a super quick break, and we're going to be right back, and we're going to hear more of Josh's tips in just a moment. Are you looking for ways to make additional income? ChansonWater.com has 3 great ways to get up and running fast, making more money. We have a salesperson training school that teaches you all the ins and outs of selling and how to sell the hottest water health products available. We also have a dealer program and an affiliate program, all with different benefits and responsibilities. Go to ChansonWater.com website and look for the dealer tab at the top of the page to find out more about how you can start making money fast. All right. Thank you, everybody. Josh, this is so good. Okay. So we want the professional signature line. We want the professional website. What else?
Yeah, you will get paid, by the way, equivalent to your level of branding and your website design. That's the level of influencer or client or investor that you're going to attract. And so if you're coming in with a D- website or a C- website, they're like, you know what? You're too early for me. And so it's not their fault. That's just the mechanism that we all use. So next would be Google search results. So if you do a Google search right now for Josh Elledge, I can tell you exactly what you're going to find. It's pretty good. Okay. My Twitter and my LinkedIn are right up there. Okay. Which is going to get into number 3 here in just a second. So, but if you are very active in working on your visibility and you're getting quoted in the news, you're getting quoted from, say you're on other programs, I mean, you're working with other influencers, that stuff is all going to show up and it's going to make you look like you know what you're talking about. And so again, what that gives, let me take a pause here and explain what authority is. Authority, there's a correlation between authority and how wealthy you are, but it's just a correlation. It's not causation. So you could be extremely wealthy, but you might not necessarily have any authority because, you just did some kind of e-com, on some, obscure part of the planet and some little private, 4-walled room or something like that. But that doesn't necessarily give you any authority until you get out there and start serving and teaching and owning your authority. So where does authority come from? It comes from 2 places. 1, social proof. Okay? And that's going to get into social media, what I'm about to talk about in just a second. Number 2, it comes from who else, if I respect somebody else and they say, hey, you really need to pay attention to what Natalie is saying, I'm going to be like, okay, because I respect you. So what they do is what I call a KLT transfer. So they're transferring their know, like, and trust onto you, Natalie. And so I'm going to make sure that, if Mike Stelzner, Pat Flynn or John Lee, whoever, right? If they say, Amy Porterfield says, pay attention to what Natalie has to say, I'm going to pay attention to what Natalie has to say because I respect Amy Porterfield.
Because
so
she's got that authority, right?
Yep. And then social proof. In other words, social proof would be like, look, Natalie, I go to Natalie's Twitter account because Twitter and LinkedIn are the ones that matter. Because when I Google you, that's what's going to show up. And Twitter and LinkedIn are kind of more of a professional platform. They're more of a B2B platform as opposed to Facebook, Instagram, which are a little bit more B2C. And so if I want to know how important you are and we're at a conference and you're speaking, chances are really good that your Twitter handle is going to be posted somewhere. And so that's what I'm going to use. And look, if I've got 500 followers and I'm speaking versus 50,000 followers and I'm speaking, those communicate 2 entirely different things. And we all look at this and we all judge it. And Twitter is extremely important. I don't think you can overinvest right now in Twitter and LinkedIn. And a lot of people don't get Twitter. A lot of people don't get LinkedIn either. And it's a huge missed opportunity in terms of communicating your authority, let alone all the lead gen you can do on those 2 platforms.
Wow. I will admit to you, I have been on Twitter for years, and I had never been on Twitter until probably a week ago. I pay people to do that stuff for me and had never spent a minute on Twitter, like literally didn't know how to tweet, didn't know how to retweet, didn't know anything about it. And I just spent some time in there just sort of learning recently. So.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you need to fall in love with Twitter. You can completely outsource it. You really can. However, if you're not doing anything, then that's a little bit of a problem. Right.
That's a totally different story.
You can choose not to do it. It's just going to be something. Look, I'm just being honest with you. I'm just telling the person who's listening to our conversation right now, I'm just telling you what other people are not telling you, but they're just ghosting you. You want to know why they're ghosting you? It's because they don't respect you. So if you want their respect, you have to earn it. And you earn it by, again, your affiliation and your social proof.
Yep. No, I agree. And something as simple as email addresses. I was communicating with somebody recently, and it was a Prodigy email address. Now, I wasn't sure that this gal was legit, but once I saw that she had a Prodigy email address, I knew that this lady had that email account for, 20 something years. She was probably an older lady, it's not a professional email server, whatever, but that will tell you a lot about a person.
Yeah. So look, so then we get into conversation about branding, right? And so you should seek after and take advantage of every branding opportunity that you have. How much control does LinkedIn give you over your profile? Well, they give you nearly 100%. You just have to work within their parameters. So why would you miss out on that opportunity? Guaranteed, you're being judged on your email address, just like you said, Natalie. And so if you are, honestly, everybody should be using their brand in their email address, right? You really should, because that's what CEOs do. And that's what millionaires do.
But here's the problem that somebody like you and I come into. You have multiple businesses. I have multiple businesses. Okay. And for me, I will confess that for my personal, I use an AOL email, and that's really my preference. And I've got all the fancy ones. I've got the Chanson Water one. I've got the Princess Power one. I've got the Expert Podcast Academy one. But my preference is I don't want to have to deal with all of that. Now, is that wrong? Absolutely.
Yes. I would disagree with you. I would, and if you need an alias, use your alias. It's not hard to do. Find a techie person but just never communicate with your AOL. Again, if we're being friends here and you're asking my honest opinion.
No, I know this. I know this.
Yeah.
I agree. And I judge other people on, what I see too. But again, when you've got multiple businesses, it does make it harder to, figure out which one you're communicating with at that particular moment.
Yeah. So I mean, right now, it depends on, each. So I've got two main ones. So I've got obviously a savings angel one, and I've got my influence one. And then I've got ones that go to my VA and that sort of thing. But it really, so I've got two main audiences, and I choose the drop down. And you can send, like if you're using Gmail, you can, I've got like 6 different email addresses. I can choose who I'm sending this from.
Gmail is good for that. The reason I don't use Gmail is they lost 2 of my emails. I opened it. I could see who it was from. I could see the subject line. Email disappeared. Spent an hour and a half trying to find it. And I'm done. You do that to me twice and never mind. Thank you very much. And somehow my staff always manages to make it work. But I've just chosen to, bypass that.
Awesome.
So, Okay, well, what about a person that they don't have that authority yet? I mean, you started with no authority. I started with no authority. We had to build that. So let's give some of those people some hope.
Look, I was absolutely, I was broke at the beginning. Nobody knew my name. I never went to school for, savings angel stuff. Like, I didn't go to school to become a consumer expert, consumer advocate. So it was kind of funny. I remember the day that I became a consumer advocate was somebody asked me, they said, "So are you a consumer advocate?" And I kind of looked to the left, I looked to the right. I'm like,
yes, I am.
Yes, I am a consumer. I'm so glad you asked that. And, it's amazing. Not every field you can do this, but it honestly, it doesn't take a whole lot to be a high authority person in your space. Obviously, if you're a rocket scientist or brain surgeon, but even then, it's like you can be a brain surgeon enthusiast. And so you choose to write about and blog about or social media about all the best brain surgeons in the planet. And all of a sudden, you are an authority in that space, even if you aren't actually a brain surgeon. And so, and in today's economy, digital economy, that's, as long as you build an audience and then you've got affiliation, bam, you are high authority. So listen, the world doesn't necessarily, well, they do, but I mean, as far as like the kind of person I'm guessing is listening to this conversation, you don't have to get every degree and certification, that sort of thing out there. If you have a heart to serve, if you love serving audiences, if you love serving other influencers, that's all you need. And, just learn everything you can and just every day teach. Teach as many people as you can. Use your platforms. Use your live streaming. Do video. Do audio. Do write. But just constantly give away content and serve people. And, at the beginning, you're going to stink. And, your authority will grow one piece at a time. You're building some audience, you're building some affiliations. You build some audience, you're building some affiliations. And 6-12 months later, all of a sudden you're partnering and networking with some of the most influential people in your industry. You can absolutely do it.
This is incredible. Now, you said serving influencers. Give us an example of what that would look like. How would one serve an influencer?
Yeah, sure. So if you imagine, just try to imagine what their day is like. And I'll tell you specifically, I talk about influencers and journalists and media producers kind of interchangeably because they all kind of do the same thing in my world. And that is that they're serving audiences. They do it a little bit differently, but they have all these intense content demands that they've set themselves up for their audience. And so imagine now if you're a journalist, you're like, crap, I got to write an article every day. I got to do this video every day. I probably have to manage this team. I got to do and so what could you possibly do? How could you step in there and make their life better, their life easier? Well, again, if they're producing content, don't show up and say, hey, my product is the best thing in the world and you should talk about my product. And we just launched version 1.153 alpha of our new product. And so you should be doing a news story about that. Okay. Do you think that that's honestly what an influencer needs? No, not at all. Okay. I'm just going to give you some tough love right now. Okay. Nobody cares. Honestly, they don't care about my product. They don't care about your product. What they care about is they care about value and entertainment and information. How much value can they give their audience so that they can continue to grow their audience? That's what they want to do. Most influencers want to continue to grow their influence and they want to continue to grow their audience so that they can go on and do bigger and better things. So how can you help them do that? So you really have to look at, well, what's specialty? What do you have that you can give them? So in many cases, this would mean you're probably going to help them with content. Now, if you're a service provider and you can go do something like maybe you can help them with some social media and you're willing to do that pro bono, let me tell you, that's one way to make friends real quick is just start doing stuff for free for people and providing them value. I've done that a lot in my life. Networking with somebody else. I'm like, hey, I noticed that I couldn't find a press kit on your page. Could I take care of that for you? And then they say, yeah, absolutely. And then we end up doing some awesome stuff together. But you have to lead. And this kind of like the law of association, right? So you're the combined average of the 5 people you hang around with most. So obviously everybody is always trying to improve their average. It sounds Machiavellian, but it's kind of what we all do. And so when you say, hey, I want to come join your association, the influencer is going to be like, I really can't, invite too many people from, lower levels of influence up to where I am, because then that kind of brings me down. But the best way to, and again, I know, Natalie, all of this sounds so superficial the way I'm talking about it. Okay, but it's just the way our brains work, and it's the way that business works, and this business certainly works. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. I would just say, just work within the system, and you can rise very quickly. So the best way to get in with other influencers is to serve your way in. That's it. If you can provide them value, they'll do it. So content would look like knowing that they have to produce articles. What can you produce or provide them? Quotes, outlines. Can you just write an article for them and just say, look, I haven't given this to anybody else, but I really love the work you're doing. We already know each other on Twitter. I've been, liking and forwarding and responding and, promoting your work on Twitter for the past couple months, and we've had some interactions and stuff. So you have that relationship first, and you're like, hey, I happen to be a total geek on this topic, and I know sometimes you write about this topic. I would love to be your eyes and ears, and you got to tell them too. This is really important, that I don't need anything in return. I don't need you to promote me. None of that. Like, I'm good, right? My heart is that I just want to serve people. And if you take that approach, by the way, you win. It absolutely works. And if you come at somebody, and it's amazing, I get probably a good, 15, 25 pitches every single week. And most of them are all about just sell, just selling their stuff. That honestly, it's like 90, 95% of the pitches I get.
Yeah,
So
people don't really know how to pitch.
No, and it's amazing. There are PR firms that are doing this that are getting paid tens of thousands of dollars.
No, that was
sometimes I respond back to them. I'm like, what do you want me to do here?
The pitches
is someone
that you
really
get from a
paying
PR
for
firm.
this?
Yeah, the pitches from a PR firm, they're like, oh, I have a client that could be really good for your show. They don't tell you anything, so they provide no value. You do not want to spend the time to respond to the thing because they had the chance to tell you and they didn't tell you. I get it.
Yeah. It's spray and pray. It's so sloppy. Today's PR firms are just modern day spammers. Mm-hmm. And I'm not all of them. Mm-hmm. I'm only talking about the bad ones. Anyone listening to this show is, watching us. They're good. They're good. Like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the other ones. You know who I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, I had an interesting experience, and I didn't follow through this. It was just an idea that went through my head. Here in Kentucky Derby is like a religion. Okay.
Yeah.
There's about 2 weeks before. There are parties. There are fireworks shows. I hear it's the biggest fireworks show in the nation. They spend $2 million on it, and one side is on Indiana, and one side's over here in Kentucky, and it's all coordinated and whatever. So I've been introduced to this woman who is an event coordinator.
Yeah. I
literally don't see any way that, she's going to bring benefit to my life. Okay. I'm not interested in becoming friends with her for that. I don't have friends here in Kentucky. I have one friend. I'm trying to make friends. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to take this woman to lunch and whatever. And she's been busy with all this, and I get it. And I thought, you know what? You have some free time. She's really busy. She's got to be hiring extra people for help. Just go help her. Just, you don't need money for it. Just go help her. And I didn't do it, but I thought about it. But I can see now how I should have taken that action, that was really kind of inspired action, just to get to know this person more, to be available to serve her. And it would have been a neat opportunity. And I passed it up by not, following through with my gut.
Yeah, for sure. So it's, I can't, I just can't speak any more emphatically about this idea of relationships first. One of our core values at Up My Influence is human connection, where we harness the power of relationships to create sustainable collaboration. Because once you form those relationships, look, influencers do campaign. They do, as they do lots of work with each other. Why do they do that? It's because, look, I've got a huge audience. You've got a huge audience. And wow, we do these things together and we both make $100,000 like, nobody's business. Wouldn't it be cool to get into those circles? What I just outlined, that's how you do it. Because guess
Absolutely.
What? All influence, almost, I won't say all, but a majority of influencers, a vast majority of influencers used other influencers to get where they are.
Oh, you see that. And you see that with authors. And one of my secret passions that my listeners don't really know about is, I don't really talk about it here. You don't want to be my friend on Facebook I'm very political on Facebook, but I'm really into this thing called Q. And I spend about 5-6 hours a day reading Q related stuff right now. And it has to do with mystery and intrigue and code and all this kind of thing for me. Lots of hints and whatnot. So I'm following that. But what I'm seeing is the YouTubers bounce off of each other to grow their audiences. Yeah. And there are people that started with nothing and are over 100,000 followers because they had somebody else on their show, because everybody's talking about Q, all that kind of thing. So if you watch closely enough, you see it in these different realms. I've seen it on YouTube. I'm seeing it with authors that, maybe they work for the same publisher, and so they're kind of giving each other the hand up kind of a thing. And we should do that.
I've done a lot of research on how things go viral, because obviously, when we've got clients, we want to help them make their stuff go viral. And the way that you do it is that they're really this idea that, I share something and then, 50 people are going to see it, and then they're each going to share it with 50 people, and then they're all going to share it with 50 people, and it's going to be this natural, perfect, geometric. That is a complete myth. That couldn't be any further from the truth in how things go viral. You want to know how things go viral? Influencers. Someone like the Drudge Report picks up on a news story out of Spokane, Washington. and from there, then, gets the attention of all this other media, because some tastemaker for whatever group, they said something about it, and then it got picked up everywhere, and it's kind of just explodes from there. And then all the people with very little influence, they're just, they're disseminating it because their favorite, influencer or tastemaker said something about it.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
That's how it works. It's not, it's all about the people that have big influence. They just
you're saying the one person hits it rather than, bunches of little ones got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, but that said, again, you can't, again, this should go without saying, but I'm not telling you to go beat influencers over the head and sell them. Don't do that. Just put yourself in a position where they're going to respect you and then find ways to serve them.
I love that. Well, Josh, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today. And I want you to go ahead and take a few minutes, tell everybody how they can reach out, find you. We're going to have it all on our website at princesspower.com. But I know that there are people that will hear and want to work with you. And so tell them how they can do that.
Yeah, we turn thoughtful entrepreneurs into media celebrities, and we're really, really good at it. We've got a great track record. We connect influencers and really good thought. So if you're a mean, nasty entrepreneur, we don't want to work with you. But if you're one of the good ones, happy to be of service. The best thing really to do is I'll have a webinar upcoming. I do those on a fairly regular basis. 90 minutes. It is going to completely rock and change your world, because we're really going to dig into this concept of authority, and I'm going to give you a lot of actionable stuff. So you can join that webinar. It's at upmyinfluence.com, and then just click on webinar, and love to be of service. And at the conclusion of that webinar, I'll offer, schedule 15 minutes with me or my team, and love to chat and learn more about the work you're doing and see if we can't help you with some connections.
Wow. Well, we sure appreciate that. Everybody, we want to thank you for listening. We really appreciate you. And we ask that if you've got value out of this, you like, share, and comment, because that does help us in the search engine rankings. And definitely reach out to Josh and check out his webinar. Sign up for that 15-minute free call and see if working with him will make you an influencer and reach other influencers in your life. So thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks so much, Natalie.
Thanks so much for listening to the Princess Power Hour with Natalie Thomas. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit princesspower.com or on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter at PP Princess Power. Until next time, work smarter, not harder. Have a question for your host of Princess Power Hour, Natalie Thomas? Contact us at www.princesspower.com or tweet us at PP Princess Power.